showing up the way that they should. I'm looking more for like, how can I meet them where they're at? I'm looking for, why are they presenting this way? Because I don't expect everybody to, especially considering the historical and generational trauma. I like, even when people seem to not have trauma or seem like they're okay, to me, I feel like collectively our story kind of dictates that it's hard to be perfectly okay, and I don't expect anybody to show up as though, they're standing on a solid foundation, when I feel like a lot of us are coming from broken foundations. And healing requires that integration. So I think it's important. That's something I see from millennials, that transparency that David was talking about. I think that's our way of confronting that trauma. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very, very well said.
Yes.
Very well. Very good.
Yes.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mark?
I'm privileged to meet everybody and just observing and listening. One of the things that I've come to appreciate in my tenure as a pastor and also in the corporate America workforce is to take the initiative to appreciate the differences in individuals. One of the things that I gleaned just from the conversation, and it was healthy dialogue. I didn't see a cause for alarm, but I just saw a spark of consciousness. And one of the things that I can appreciate, from David, Jamila, and Amber, and I've learned this just in my corporate responsibilities and my spiritual responsibilities, is to understand that every generation brings something different and unique to the table. And we have to take the time to understand differences don't necessarily mean division.
Right.
And oftentimes, if we're not careful,
thank you, Mr. Mark.
It goes in that direction. I struggle. I feel your heart, David. I feel your heart, Amber. Feel your heart, Jamara. And I also understand where you're coming from, Will. I'm probably the oldest person on this panel. You said you're in your mid 50s. I'm closer to 60 than you all would even think.
Wow. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark,
you look great.
But one of the things I've learned and I appreciate is that every generation, when we talk about I'm afraid for this generation behind me, every generation has a sense of daringness about them. My generation was more bolder than my parents' generation. My sons are more bolder than I am in some areas. My grandchildren are bolder. So I think we need to not demonize the differences about us, but accept those differences and understand we all talked about, we all bring something different to the table. Well, let's not fuss and scream and holler because David brought potato salad without onions in it. Let's not kick and scream because Will brought yams and it didn't have no marshmallows in it. Why can't we all just sit down and enjoy each other's
and just enjoy,
And David does not bring no potato salad with no onions to the doggone.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
We all know better.
But I'm just saying. Oftentimes we don't take the time to listen. We don't take the time because we form our own opinions about things, people, places, experiences. We all have different experiences. We all have different traumas. We all have different backgrounds. But the thing that drives us to a sense of unity and purpose is that we have passion and we have a sense of history. So I'm not trying to be peacemaker in all this because I've enjoyed the dialogue and I've enjoyed the conversation. A matter of fact, I'm getting ready to have a conversation with a group of young people in a few weeks. They always seem to be the most watched or viewed conversations that I have, because our generation, like I said, I'm 59. I'll be 59 rather in November. Our generation made a lot of mistakes that the generations behind us had to suffer for. But in the same token, we shouldn't, I've said this before and I'll say it again, we shouldn't beat a younger generation up for some of the things they do. And you say, they're crazy. Well, we were young and crazy as well.
Right.
We can't forget that. The difference, I say this all the time, the difference between my generation and my son's generation is social media. This thing here. The technology, but from a broad perspective, there are some things that we have commonalities.
We do.
I've been stopped by the cops, Will, for walking up, not riding a bike, walking up the street. I was stopped in a barbershop. This was in my 20s. I was stopped 3 years ago, as recent as 3 years ago, coming home by a state police officer. A Black man driving a nice car, whatever else. So I can relate to all that. I can understand all that. But what we need to do, rather than focus on our differences, let's strive to blend our commonalities together.
Yes. We still need to verbalize all of these. We still need to verbalize our differences so that we can understand the commonality.
But the thing too, I'm gonna shut up and say this: we need to respect each other enough to listen to one another.
Exactly. That because we all have a story. And I feel like we just need to build trust in our community. We need to know that we're safe. And when we don't agree, it's not about attacking. Just help me to understand. If I don't get it now, help me to understand, but don't run away. I'm going to speak.
Because that's one thing I was going to say, is that the difference between Gen Xers in a way of speaking and millennials is that we were taught to trust our elders. And millennials often don't trust us.
Right. This is true. And a lot of it is because of the fact that we have not necessarily been open about some things. To go to David's point.
And also,
I understand what you meant, David.
And also, Will, because in many instances, we've not been trustworthy as well.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
And they're telling the truth. And they're telling the truth about why a lot of generations haven't been trustworthy, right? There's, in every generation, there's been someone who hasn't been trustworthy. We can say that, but they're telling the truth as to why the generations haven't been trustworthy.
Because I've had people say to me,
the truth of that.
I've had people say to me, I just got engaged in July, and I had people say to me, I was for several years. When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get married? I'm like, for what? So I could be miserable like you?
Yep, that's the truth too. Yep. We can talk about our grandparents that stayed together and they were miserable. Let's talk about that.
You talk about coming correct. Hey, I came correct because I know you and your wife, without saying it, because I know this person intimately.
Yeah.
You and your wife are roommates. Come on now.
Yeah.
I have two very long. My brother has been married for 55 years, so he's been married longer than I've been alive. And they love each other. They're each other's best friends. That's what they call each other. Their joy, jokes and joy and happiness. I also have another long, because I didn't think about it till the other day that my other relative has been married for 50 years. I don't like to be around them. I don't like to be around because it's like this really crazy negative energy. And I'm divorced and I'm sitting up there looking at
divorced and happy to the mug, ain't you? Happily divorced.
Like, how are you down with this?
Amber has
you're right, bro.
Amber has a hand. Amber, thank you.
You're like, give up, walk away, end it now.
And I want, after Amber, I want to talk about that with Dave. But I just love, I was at his wedding. I saw him and his girlfriend before they got married, and just being young and just how into each other, the foundations they're laying intentionally together. That's impressive. But let's go to Amber. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure how to articulate my question. I wanted to ask the older generation, how much, when it comes to acknowledging excuse me, acknowledging, I guess, the expressions of millennials, of the younger generation, how do you feel like the Gen X and baby boomers, their navigation of white America and like the assimilation and maybe I guess you could call it white, like seeking white approval, how does that color your perception of, or the way that you handle the younger generations being so forthcoming with how you know we're dealing?
I think that with the baby boomer generation, I always consider that to be the the beneficiaries of the civil rights movement. So people who are in their 60s and 70s were in their 20s and 30s in the late 60s. So when after all my parents' generation marched and got shot and all this other stuff, then that next group of people who were the first people who were able to have a certain type of job, live in a certain type of neighborhood, get education. My generation was sold a bill of sale where it was like a lot of the things that we were told to do in order to be successful in this society, because it was open for us to be successful. We discovered later it wasn't necessarily true. Right. So we're still getting pulled over.
I think millennials are dealing with that too.
You know, we still have income disparity. We still have healthcare disparity. We still have all of this other stuff that has not really changed, even though we quote unquote did everything right. With millennials, y'all sitting up there, and I have to cuss, y'all sitting up here like that's bullshit. And I love that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Call it out.
I love that because y'all like, that's bullshit. My oldest daughter is 27. She's a college graduate. She graduated in 2017. She's had 6 jobs. And when
more than that,
working,
Amber's like, I've had 22, baby. And I'm only 22 years old. I've been working since I was 1. I've had a job every year of my life.
How old are you, Amber?
I'm 29, and it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's, and that was arduous. And when I finally did get that, I got a degree in hospitality management after studying completely unrelated things. I studied animal medicine and studied environmental science, all of that. I went into hospitality management. You know, it was my parents' suggestion because I didn't know where to go. I flunked out of veterinary school because of depression, and I didn't know where to go from there. My parents suggested hospitality management, even though I had no idea what to do with that degree. But they just like their mindset. No, their mindset is like they just want me to have a degree under my belt. They felt like that would, propel me.
That's
and
the
that
passport.
that never made sense to me. And I pretty much ran into exactly what I was trying to explain to my parents. I ended up not being able to really use that degree to my advantage. I'm currently driving a school bus, and that I went into that basically just for the pay so that I could move out of my parents' house. But looking back, I'm like, if I had known that I would be here, I wouldn't have put myself through all of that. But it's just the mentality, and that's why I'm asking. I know why my parents thought that way. They thought that would give me an advantage in this society, in this country. So that's why I'm asking, how much does this kind of pressure to assimilate and meet the standards of white America, how does that?
Can I say something, Amber?
Yes.
I have several young people, including my oldest son. My oldest son went to college, got a degree in bookkeeping, worked for corporate America, got bored with it, decided that a few years ago he was just going to follow his passion. Now he has his own barbershop. He's had his own barbershop for the last 2 years, very successful, cuts as many white heads as he does black heads. So one of the things I want to say to your generation that I really credit you all for, you all are not afraid to pivot and make a shift if something's not satisfying your passion. That's one thing I will give you credit about. I was raised in a generation, you get this degree, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You're stuck in one lane. And now I see that, I'm glad I pivoted a little bit later in life. But one of the things I will say, you all, you're bold and you're daring to make some shifts, and don't be afraid to try something until you lock into your passion, which is underlying your purpose. Don't. And it's not about doing something that. Don't let somebody else's definition of success be your definition.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that's why I dropped out.
It's not too late.
I understand,
right. And David,
I get you.
David, exactly.
I get you. One of the faux pas of spiritual leadership is that a lot of pastors feel like they got to climb up an ecclesiastical rank in order to get a specific title to be recognized. That's a faux pas. That is a crux. I walked away from a reformation that wanted to elevate me because I recognized I don't need to be walking around like some of y'all don't know about the Flintstones, the Grand Poobah, with all these big bees and all this other crazy stuff. I don't need all that. My purpose is more important than the position.
Yes.
Finding my purpose in life is more validating, more affirming than getting a title.
Yes.
To be important for a few days out of the course of a year.
Yeah. I agree with that, Mark. I also think that, I learned years ago, work is what you do often, not necessarily who you are. And I have seen many folk get a job and be riding high on the job and the title and the income, and then something happens and it's wiped away. It's gone, and then their value, their worth just hangs. So whatever you do, don't get into that trap of, I finally achieved this and it's mine and I'm, all this, because it can be taken away just like that.
I've enjoyed myself. David, stay strong. Will.
Yes. All right, blessings. Bye. David, because one of my topics, I know the conversations always get so deep. And I never get to all my thoughts that I have written down. But, there's just so much rebuilding that we have to do in our community to move forward together. And intimacy, and intimacy, not just with a man and a woman or, like that kind of a relationship, but father, son, mother, daughter, parents, children. Intimacy. But David, I know David's story. I know where he comes from. And that's why I wanted him to be here. And I'm so proud of you, David, for not leaving.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for not leaving.
Seriously.
I
need
that
to hear you.
That leave button. I know about that leave button. I know about it.
Don't do it.
It looks so good.
Don't do it. I was praying hard. I was
David's like, I'm going to leave.
Yeah, I'm so glad he did.
But I'm so because
wait, he got a black cup too. What's in that cup?
But you see how much he's brought to the conversation. And I'm always very prayerful, very thoughtful of who I reach out to. And there was intentions, there's a reason why. And David has never really had an example of what healthy relationships look like. And I've watched him evolve. He's gone through hell. When you read his book, when you hear his story,
can't wait.
He's gone through so much, but the choices he's made, I got goosebumps if you all could see them. The choices he's made to become the man that he is today is incredible. It's incredible. So he's he I don't know if you all saw the post. Where'd he go? David, where'd he go?
He didn't leave. I think he's just, I think
he's like,
I'm a man.
I was
do that. That's what the generation behind me talking.
It's all right, baby. It's all right.
What is the link to your podcast and your book?
Send the link, David.
Could you put it in the chat?
To the group
Put it in the chat.
Okay. And wait, let me ask, is it a podcast or is it on Facebook Live or we have to, where is it?
It's on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube.
Okay. But I mean, we're running out of time. We literally only have 3 minutes and he can't really get into it. And I hope that we can get this group back together to continue the discussion, because this feast, we have created a beautiful feast, and the meal is pretty yummy right now. I like where it's going. I want him to talk about, just his steps to becoming, like, even just to be able to love his wife, love this woman, in spite of what he's gone through.
Yeah, I'll share a little bit of what I think you're asking.
Okay.
I don't know. My understanding of life and reality was basically shaped by my experience, because I didn't have teachers. So I pretty much just focused my life. I didn't start talking until I was maybe about 7 years old.
Oh,
wow.
And they thought that I was autistic, but it was a choice. I was
Selective mutism.
Yeah, I was deliberately choosing not to speak because talking didn't make sense. Back then, we didn't know that meant, mood disorder or whatever. But then things just got crazy coming up, like intensely crazy. It's so surreal to talk about, because when I talk about my life, it feels like it's a lie, like I'm making it up.
I'm a witness. It's very much real. Very much real.
I don't know. I think the loving my wife healed me. Learning to love her, and the way I learned to love is by being completely transparent 24/7.
Yeah.
Because
thank you.
Good stuff.
I've read the Quran, I've read the Satanic Bible, I've read the Holy
It's
Bible.
okay.
Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you.
That's right.
All of it.
Anything you can think about just to try to grasp an understanding of what it means to be a basic human, and then to also try to grasp what it means to be a man, on top of being a Black man that is that lives in a land that hates the complexion of my skin, and then to be a part of a community who shares the same complexion of my skin, who also hates me because I was raped and molested. And so I can't identify with my male peers because I'm a little too weird. So I have to, and then I don't have a father. So it was just a lot.
It's a lot, exactly.
A lot to figure out. And then, but to be honest with you, I think the thing that made it easy is, and I guess this goes to you, Amber, when it comes to you taking 10 years to finish your BA. So you not knowing what you had to do. So to be honest with you, I started out at a predominantly white institution. This was a private institution that just started taking state funding. So it was predominantly Caucasian. I thrived there, but it wasn't fulfilling. So I went to Job Corps, played basketball, and blew the heck up. Took the team to Georgia, and they played in their first national tournament where college coaches were recruiting. And then I went to a HBCU, a historically Black university, where I was really able to figure out my own individual identity. Keep exploring. One thing that I do encourage of people in my generation, though, that we don't do very well is find a balance. And we do. One thing that I did learn from the generation before us is they are workaholics. They are workhorses. You can't tell them what you do. I was watching basketball, and I'm gonna shut up real quick. I was watching basketball, and I was thinking about how Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant would play through torn Achilles, broken fingers. You see these guys now, and they I'm done. I'm not playing no more. The same work ethic is not there. But then I look at the other side of the coin of it. They're prolonging their career. They're being more intelligent. Why do you play through pain when you don't?
Okay.
Why do you live through pain?
I understand both sides of the coin. So what I frown upon in my generation a lot is that we don't understand there's a balance between the workhorse and our creativity. Yes. And you need to nurture them both. And if you don't nurture them both, you cannot nurture your creativity without the money of this land. The Bible tells us to follow the laws of the land. So just follow the laws of the land, and then also create while you following those laws. And
strategic.
Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you, CHAR. And
you're welcome.
Most definitely. You remind me of my Uncle Perry. It was
that's an honor. Uncle is a high status.
That's right.
That's a high status.
And that lets you know. That lets you know I'll argue with you any day. Like back and forth.
Going back and forth.
Yeah, we could debate. I should have said we could debate back and forth, and it'll
leave.
Just leave. And let me explain to you guys why I would leave. So I have mood disorders, and so when people, I only navigate in like directness, like you said. So you can be as blunt with me as to tell me something, the rudest thing you can think of, and I could digest it and accept it and normalize it as truth if it is your honest truth. But when it comes to I have a hard time operating in confusion, and when it feels like my trauma teaches me to attack, period. And I'm learning, growing up, I have to learn I've learned to pull it back. But even when I'm calm, like in a calm state, if it's a passionate conversation, I'm still going to appear as if.
Well, let me say this, nephew. You my nephew now.
Nephew, all right. Uncle Will.
Nephew, you remind me of myself when I was about your age, because I was aggressive.
Yeah.
I didn't calm down with the aggression till I was about 40. And then
what I'm expecting.
No, seriously, it kind of like Will now is a wonderful guy. Like I'm easygoing. Will at 32, and I was on the road fighting with people.
Wow.
like it's a running joke with musicians. It's a running joke with musicians of my generation, but it's the truth. Like that people would pay me. If the money was wrong, they would always pay me because I was ready to fight everybody.
Wow.
Except I never fought my women.
Would have never known that.
I never fought my women.
Women are my weakness.
That's crossing the line. That's crossing the line.
Right. No, because that was the way I was raised. So you don't fight a woman.
Right.
But like a dude, we could. And so you're ahead of me because you use your words. You know?
I didn't always. I just learned that. It's
like, right. It's about it's about 30, and then you're like, maybe I shouldn't hit you.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
I might think about it.
We need to continue this. That's what it's going. Again, because last week we talked about healing our community together. And that's going to take generations, the different generations, to come together and have that conversation. I think, Amber, were you trying to say something when David was saying? Just if you could just give us a little bit of time.
He said it so much better than me.
Did he say
that's what I was getting at, really. I really don't think that I asked the question properly, what I was trying to get across.
You did.
The example that he gave of his athletes working through injuries, there's just something about that mentality from previous generations that I really feel is connected to his I'm going to say historical trauma. And
it is
assimilation.
Because they had to work through trauma.
That's exactly. I think that we're still learning to hold space for each other's trauma and our own trauma. Yeah. And trying to show up and push through that That was a much better example. Yes.
That trauma and creativity though, because when you think about it, when we were enslaved, that workhorse, they used our creativity to create this world that we live in now.
Of course.
But this is why you come across this in the entertainment industry.
Yep.
This is why
that's what I call it.
It's a what?
It's a zoo.
Wow.
It's a zoo.
Can I say one thing to?
I know Lynn's gonna go for it. That's why I let you.
No, I'm saying
for it, Auntie.
In particular to Amber and David and Jamila. First of all, I appreciate the passion.
Yes.
You guys express the passion in different ways. Amber is very, mild tempered, right? She's very soft. David is very like, look, you better hear me. You need to understand me, right? And Jamila's like, look, somebody told me this, that, I don't know what to do, right? I appreciate the vulnerability and the ability to express the vulnerability.
That's so good.
I'm going to ask David personally, when you feel like we're not understanding, take a step back and take the time to explain and to clarify. Because we want to understand. We don't want to be in a position where we're feeling like, wait a second, we're all coming with our stuff, right? Everybody's stuff. One of the things that I love about this format is that we've been doing this for, a few weeks or months or whatever. Everybody has been extremely raw and vulnerable, and it's okay. There's no judgment, okay? But when you feel you're being misunderstood, just say, look, that's not what I meant, or this is what I meant to say. I appreciate you saying, look, I'm a leave, and then you didn't.
That's right.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal because we wouldn't be having a vulnerable, honest, genuine moment if you had left. We wouldn't be able to get to that place where we feel like we've accomplished something in terms of understanding each other. The last thing I'm going to say to the three of you guys in particular is that you already got the cops to be mad at. You got the white folks to be mad at, right? There are all kinds of factions and people and groups to be mad at.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be mad at our own people, and forgive those that hurt you. If you can't forgive them, then put it behind you so that you're not mad at every other person that looks like them. Okay? That's a huge cross to bear. If you got to be mad at the cops and be mad at the white folks and be mad at, right? And then you got to be mad at your own, there is no peace in that. Right. So at least if you have had trauma or abuse, if you can compartmentalize that to not be a broad, to not be everybody in your community, at least be okay here in this group of 8, however many. Okay, that's really what I want to get out with these guys.
Thank you so much.
Like diabetes, when insulin, human bodies don't produce enough insulin, so you have to inject yourself with that. My brain, it doesn't chemically function that way, so when it's not about the way a person looks, it's not about the way, it's about the energy provided. Energy provided to me is what triggers the imbalance. And so I hear you, and I will respect trying to pull back and acknowledge. I thought I did that, but I'll work better at it.
You did. No, you did.
You did.
What I'm looking for you to just help us understand. When you feel like we're not understanding, we're not hearing you, then just try to, they say when they teach communication is the responsibility of the giver, right? Because if somebody's not receiving what you're communicating, you got to figure out another way to get through.
Right.
So that's what I'm asking of you. You did pull back. You did that. I just want you to be patient with us, because if we don't understand or we misread something, we need to rely on you to say, no, let me clarify. Let me step back and make sure you understand exactly what I mean, and do that until we get it.
And he did. And he did, because we had so many, when he opened his mouth, we had so many aha moments. Absolutely. I mean, I saw everybody's faces. It was like, oh yeah.
Our responsibility being that David is also still here as a group for us also to continue to hear.
Yes.
Because the communication is not just, talking, but it's also hearing. So David saying what he's saying, like you're saying, Lynn, to also being able to hear what David is saying also. So David, with you still being here, I think as a group, it's also our responsibility to make sure that, we're all so making sure that, like you're saying, Lynn, making sure it's a safe space for everyone.
Yeah.
So I know David's also shared that his the mood disorder, that's very vulnerable space.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Jamila shared the trauma she's had. Even Amber shared the PTSD. That's very, very vulnerable, to share those pieces. So thank you all for sharing that. I know I've had a history of depression. I deal with ADHD. Let me tell you, you all know, y'all see that. I take my medication every morning, damn it. My ass better take my meds every morning, because if I don't, y'all already know I'm already, if I don't take my meds every morning, you don't want to see me. I better. You know what I'm saying? So we have to make sure we honor these spaces, because it is energy, #energy management. Energy's coming at us all the time. Ourselves, we all contain a certain type of energy. And when we all come together, it's all synergetic. And so, we have to honor our own spaces. And when we come together, honor each other when we all come together. So David, I honor you. Amber, I honor Jamila, Lynn, Char, everybody.
Before you go, please don't go.
You all.
Yes,
absolutely. I'm here,
Anita,
but I just want to make sure I'm just, honor you
that.
and your experience and what you all brought tonight.
I got goosebumps. Usually when this happens, this is something that I have to do, because I was just going to end it, but we're going to end it this way. I appreciate you saying that so much, Anita. Now you know why Anita and Will and Lynn are like my core. We started this together, and it's like they bring so much to the conversation. And now it's where we're bringing the younger generation into the conversation, which is Operation Rebuild Our Village.